That's what I'm talking about, son. Get you some of that daggone pie.
Woo-hoo! Looky there. There's your bug-eyed big one right there.
Getting started. We're getting started.
Here's what I'm talking about. Gosh dang gorilla.
Let's go, baby. Straight meat. God, look at that big one.
All right, everybody. Welcome into the show. This is the BAM Pod with your host, Big Ed. And on the line tonight, we have got Hunter Baughman. Hunter has just come off a big win on Lake Truman with the MLF Toyota Series and took a big tournament back there, got the win on that one. So, Hunter, thanks for taking some time and getting on the air with us.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, now every time you win, we can have you on, right?
That's right.
All
Let's
right.
try to do it like
Let's try to do that once a month, right?
Yes.
So, Hunter, y'all heard it here. Hunter has committed to coming on the show every time he wins. So, so for his sake, we hope you get annoyed. Yeah. So you were out on Truman in Missouri, and you're an Arkansas guy. Talk to us a little bit about how you did it, a little bit about what the differences are in the two, where you come from, how you normally fish, and then how you applied that to, the tournament out there.
So, I'm Central Arkansas. And basically, if you go north of my house, you end up in the Ozark region. If you go south of my house, you end up in you start that region with cypress trees and grass like you see in Louisiana and northeast Texas, that area. I'm kind of the dividing line of it. And I like the Ozarks a lot. I don't get to fish North Arkansas, Missouri a whole bunch, but I do really like that area. So I've had a little experience in the Ozarks fishing, not on Truman. I'd never been there before, but knew, going in that brush piles would definitely play a role. They always do in the Ozark region in the fall. And I started looking. So the first day of practice, I actually went up some creeks. It was hard to get around. The lake was low, and it's like absolutely chock full of timber. And I had a decent day, but it was too hard to get around. It was too random. But I found two piles kind of on accident that first day of practice and caught keepers out of both of them. So I decided on day two of practice I would commit to only looking for brush piles, all I was going to do. And I shook about 60 bites on day two. No, I'm sorry. Found about 60 piles, shook about 25 or 30 bites on day two of practice. And I felt like at that point that was my deal. Like that's what I was going to do. I was committed to it. Day three of practice, I ended up looking in the same area, trying to find something different in the same area and could never figure it out. Went to some piles, shook a bite immediately, marked about 40 more spots that day. That was the last day of practice. And I started the tournament with about 100 waypoints roughly.
Sorry. So now that you started to establish that, and how were you picking these things apart? What were you really doing to get into these brush piles? And was there anything else that you really, brush piles seem to me that, a lot of people know about them, especially if they're not, if they're not man-made, they find them through whatever. So how were you kind of picking apart which ones you were going to do? And what was your key to, hey, you know what, this one's better, without just hitting all of them, and knowing that?
Yeah. So I was throwing a heavy jig, a 3/4 ounce Brazalo custom lures jig, and mixing in like a 5/16 finesse jig as well in it. But really, it was two long stretches, several 100-yard long stretches. I idled and found big bushy brush piles, and then I went back and I took live scope and I basically trolled from waypoint to waypoint, scanning for very subtle pieces of wood, kind of in between, to make it to where I didn't have to run from pile to pile, to where I could fish my way from one waypoint to the next. And that's really where I started adding all the waypoints, is because, it might be a stump, it might be a tree that washed up, it might be just a stop. Not a whole lot to it, but anything that had wood, I noticed I could throw on it and I could get bit on that type of stuff. So I just started the areas I felt like had some big piles with bites, I just went back with that live scope and practice, and I really just picked it apart and put a waypoint on anything I could make one throw at and keep going. And what it allowed me to do, it allowed me to not spend the time wasted in between piles. It allowed me to fish hundreds of yards stretches and just constantly keep baiting the water, hitting high percentage areas.
So when as you're going along with that and you find these little, maybe a couple sticks sticking up or one stick sticking up, and you're catching fish, are they holding better fish at all, or are they just holding maybe keepers, and then you're going to the next one and finding the bigger brush piles are holding the big fish? Or
so my three biggest fish of the tournament, which would all be over 4 pounds, they all came out large brush piles.
Okay.
But a lot of what I consider the quality bites, that bigger than keepers, but not big fish. You like say 2.5 to 3.25 pound fish. Mm-hmm. Most of those came off those very subtle little pieces of wood.
But those were pretty key fish also, just to keep your limits up, to make sure that you were getting quality fish, at least semi-quality fish. I don't know what a big fish in that lake is. 4 pounds, 4 or 5 pounds of big fish in that lake?
Well, it is. Just kind of reference, on day one, I had 12.25, I believe. No big fish. Had all those, those kind of what I consider the quality type fish. And I was in 21st out of 100 and whatever. And so that, with not, not a big weight to be in that top 25 or whatever. So, yeah, a 4-pounder, like, I think a 5 even won the big fish, but on all MLF, like Toyota stuff, they don't weigh big fish on the last day. The last day I had one that weighed 5.5, at least. It did on my scale, but they don't ever weigh fish on the last day. But, a 4+ is a big fish there for sure.
Okay. So you're finding quality fish on pretty much everything. Your bigger fish are still coming out of the bigger piles. You're just in there flipping jigs. You're flipping, you're flipping stuff and really moving pretty slowly through the piles, I'm guessing.
Yes, but I didn't make many throws. Like, the piles were anywhere from 5 feet to 15 feet deep. Mm-hmm. I had that heavy jig, and it was just like immediate. When it would go in over a limb, it would go straight to the heart of it. And, it was 2 throws. 3 was a bunch. Like, I rarely made 3 throws into one, waypoint. Most of the time it was 1 to 2. Seemed like every time I got a bite, it was on the first throw. Like, the first good throw. If I missed it, obviously I wouldn't get a bite. But the first throw that's like, oh, yeah, that's it. It's in the middle of it.
Okay, so the real key there was making sure that bait was falling fast. It was basically a reaction bite that you were getting, throwing a heavy weight in there, letting it hit, bam, and they would either pick it up right away or nothing.
Yes.
Or just wouldn't get bit, huh?
Yes, it was definitely a reaction deal. I mean, all my bites, I rarely actually felt the bite. Most of the time, throw it in there, I would watch it on live scope down to make sure it was a good throw. I'd see the bait fall into the pile. And then when I would pick up, it'd be heavy. I mean, I don't know that I felt a bite.
So that really leads me to one, is when you're looking at them on the live scope and it's up there and it's going through, are you seeing a bunch of fish when you pull up, or are you just, it's like, hey, I'm going to throw in that pile, whether there's a fish in there or not, and you're getting that reaction strike and going, okay, boom, there was one in there?
No, for whatever reason, a lot of times you can, but at Truman, I did not.
Okay.
I saw, so the last day, I had 4 fish in the box, and they were decent fish, and I roll up and I actually see this little bit of wood that I don't think I had it marked, and it was a very small piece of wood, and I throw up there with my football jig and get hung, like immediately get hung, and I'm in 5 feet of water. Okay. And I kick trolling mower on high to go up there and get it loose. And when I do, I look back down my graph, and I actually saw a fish swim through that piece of wood. So I stopped, dropped my power poles, broke the line, picked up the other jig, threw in there, and actually caught the biggest fish of my entire week. And I saw that fish swimming. I didn't see the fish eat the bait on live scope, but I saw the fish on the wood to make me stop and throw. And that was, but that was, I think there was only like 3 or 4. I had 2 stumps way out, like several hundred yards off the bank on this flat point, and I found these two stumps. And every time I'd roll up on one of those stumps, say 2 or 3 times in a day, you could see one fish sitting next to each stump, and they were giving me like I could catch a fish off those. But those were the only times I was seeing, fish. Most of the time I was just even on the subtle stuff, you wouldn't see them most of the time. You'd just fish it and they'd be there. I guess they were so close to the bottom.
Okay, so they were pretty much stuck down. You couldn't really see them suspending up inside the brush, and so it was just like, hey, I know there's fish in there. I'm going to throw in, get my bites, and the ones that are active are going to hit, and I'm moving on.
Yes,
So
sir.
why was it so important that you like work down that bank without going, hey, I'm going to go to this one, and this one, and then I'm going to move on? Why was it so important to find that area where I could go 100 yards on my trolling motor and not have to get down and start at the boat and move to the next pile? Why was that so important in this particular event for you?
It was very hard to catch keepers, and efficiency was a big part of that. It's bait in the water, and that's
Okay.
I was getting less than 10 keeper bites a day. I'd say 8 to 10. The first day I only got like 6, but the other 2 days I got 8 to 10 keeper bites, and it was so hard to catch a keeper. And then you would find like these little areas that felt like there was a concentration of fish, and I just wanted to stay in those areas and fish
Okay.
everything there was to fish there versus running all over the world trying to fish
Right.
everything. And I mean, you run the chance of rolling up on a pile and dropping your pole, or dropping your trolling motor, and when it hits the water, it scares fish. Where if you're already on the trolling motor, just easing down through there, you're pretty stealthy.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense to me. As far as, did you basically hit the same 100 yards of bank basic on and all these things every day? Was this like, this was just, hey, you know what, I'm living and dying in here? Or did you have
Uh,
several areas?
I had basically two very long stretches. I
Okay.
don't think they're quarter mile, but several hundred yard long. And I fished one on day one, and I had a rock pile I hit every day. But I fished one stretch on day one, and roughly half the waypoints, and hit just some random piles I had close that didn't have a lot around them. And then on day two, I fished basically the other half of them. Then on day three, I tried to fish them all. On
Mm.
day one, I was trying to learn how everything's set up, because it's kind of, you practice, but you don't really catch anything, so you don't know how everything sets up. Day one, I was trying to learn it. On day two, I made sure I hit the stuff that I didn't hit on day one. And then by day three, it's like, man, I need to hit all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you don't know what every time I caught a keeper, I would mark that pile. And I had 4 or 5 of those piles I could get multiple keeper bites out of in a day. And the rest of them, I would have fished it twice or whatever before I caught a keeper out. I mean, it was a little bit random.
Well, I mean, if you're catching a keeper out of one, you mark that, you take that fish out of there, you go weigh it in, you come back the next day, your thoughts and hopes are that another dominant fish moves in there, right? I mean, you're hoping another 3 or 4 pounder moves back up into that spot and, kind of control, because largemouth are mostly, they're mostly territorial. I mean, they do
Right.
run in packs when they're feeding and that sort of thing, but for the most part, they're pretty territorial. So you find a brush pile like that, it's got a 4 pounder sitting in it, and more than likely, somewhere around there's another 4 pounder, and if that fish moves out, that one moves in, right?
Correct. And there was only one spot that I caught back to back keepers, or had back to back bites even. Most of them, if I could get a bite out of it, it would be hours later before I get another bite. It wasn't like a lot of times in piles you can fire a school up and catch multiples. It wasn't like that at all. I mean, it was like you're saying, it'd be like a territorial fish would move in.
Okay. Um, you know, uh, Basically, just congratulations on that win, because I know how hard those things are to come by. And is this your first major win?
I appreciate it, man. It is. It's my first major win. I've won some stuff statewide and here in Arkansas. Nothing at that level.
Nothing at that level. So, how did overall? We all fish, and how did that just make you feel? To finally get that that big win.
Man, it's such a blessing, and for so many reasons, financially for my family, it's quite a payday, and just like after I got done, I was like, man, finally, but I've been doing this a long time. Like it
Right.
tells me, yeah, you can compete. I fished the NPFL as well, which is the National Professional Fishing League, and
Yep.
this second year I fished it, and like the first one we ever had, I caught them really good, and I got the camera for 2 days out of 3, and it was a good tournament. And then I've had a couple good tournaments last year, and then this year's been pretty rough on me. So it's kind of good. Take a big breath, deep breath, and go, man, I can do this. It just sometimes it doesn't go your way, then finally it does.
Mustang Survival, home of the original floater coat. With over 50 years of experience in engineering and manufacturing the best in marine safety and comfort, we've got you covered when fishing in all conditions.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I know that it's always a lot of hard work, and you're fishing against a bunch of really good sticks out there, and that's I mean, like you said, the money's nice. Don't get me wrong. Getting that money is nice, but that money's gone. Having that big trophy over your shoulder, having that going up there is always that. I think no matter what any tournament fisherman says, it's like, yeah, I want the wood. The money's fine. I'm happy I got the money and all that, but I want that wood, man. I want that stuff that says, "Hey, I did this, dude," and you can't take it away from me because I did it. You know.
That's right.
That's true fishing right there. That's true fishing right there. True tournament fishing is, yeah, money's fine, but give me that wood. Give me that. I want that ply. I want that big thing on the wall. So when my in-laws come over, I'd be like, see, that's what I do. No. That's why she married a fisherman right there. But go ahead.
What's so crazy, man, is I fished a bunch of VFLs and Toyotas and done okay at them, but that's the first FLW/MLF trophy I've ever got. Like, I've not ever even got a fifth place trophy on anything. That's been like the golden joke. Like, if I fish a VFL, you can bet I'm going to get beat. Like, I don't know what it is about those, but so it's crazy. My first one of those trophies would be a Toyota first place trophy.
So well, let's lead in a little bit to, you're coming off this lake, you're coming off this tournament, and your next one, you're going to the National Professional Fishing League, right? So that's your next tournament.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, and that one's going to be in Florida, Kissimmee, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Kissimmee chain.
Tell us a little bit about, we're in that situation right now where we're having this, we have this transition, and it's basically from summer to fall, and then fall coming into winter as it gets on a little bit more. But right now we're basically summer to fall. You're going to be up there, you're fishing for largemouth up there in the Ozarks, and now you're going to be down there fishing for largemouth and when is that tournament, first of all?
It is the first week of November, so I'll leave this for it.
Okay, so you're going to be heading down there to Florida. It's a little bit different in Florida. There's a little bit of grass. I think they have some grass there. You might find a little. I mean, I think they got some really good deep lakes. Like 7-8 feet. So, so what's your what are you doing right now with this transition coming up, and now you're going to be changing into all these things? How are you going to approach this compared to what you just did, and how you do what you do every day when you go out fishing or whatever you're doing, which right now you're in the deer woods, but when you're going to be dealing with this transition, tell these people out here listening, what's your first kind of like, this is what I think is going to be happening if I'm working with the fall transition. This is what's going on, and this is what I'm looking for.
So just in general, fall transition, the fish really get targeted on bait. There's a lot of schooling activity. They start moving towards the creeks as the water cools. Topwater bite gets really good. And then depending on where you are, just, some pretty deep bite still happens too, but especially with spots and smallmouth. But they start congregating, starting to school up. Shad start moving towards creeks. Now, with that being said, Florida is so different. And I haven't done much research on it the last couple of days. And there's not really creeks. There's not really deep water. So, and for all I know, these fish are going to spawn in January. So they may be starting a pre-spawn thing instead of a fall. Florida's so weird. So I really don't know what that's going to correlate to down there. But most of the country, it's bait fish, top water,
Right.
mouths of creek, moving towards the backs of creeks, stuff like that.
So you're looking at I'm guessing for me, it's top water. There's a lot still going on right now, and it's like one of the big producers. And I'm guessing going down into Florida, that's probably going to play some part of your game. I mean, since you're dealing with water that's literally deep holes are 7 or 8 feet deep. Is
Yes,
that still a big portion of the fall right now?
I would think so. I would think everywhere the top water would play a big role. I fished the tournament Bull Shoals Lake, which is Ozark Lake here in North Arkansas, over the weekend, and it was one on top water on ploppers. What it was one on that still dominates, especially on those clear lakes. It still dominates. But we were fourth, so we had a good tournament, and I caught mine in 30 to 55 feet. Like the last day, I caught all my fish out 55 feet. So it can like fall is such a weird time because it's a transition. And
Mhm.
in the spring, when it warms up, all the fish do the same thing. Like they're like, I'm out, I'm going to the bank.
Mhm.
But in the fall, it's like half of them are like, I'm going to the bank, going to the creek. The other half are like, yeah, I think I'll just go a little deeper and hang out for a while.
Is it how much of this really takes is an emphasis on lake turnover?
Um, quite a bit, I think. Bull Shoals was a lot tougher about 2 weeks ago. I think that had to do with the tournament there. I'll be completely honest. I hunt so much in the fall. A lot of times I miss a lot of the turnover, but I hear people talking about how terrible it is, and you see like a algae type foam on the water. I assume that's the turnover,
That is.
but I think sometimes that when it just gets tough in the fall, people just say it's a turnover because they aren't catching fish, myself included.
Yeah, I mean it's one of those things. You get that turnover, and what happens is that the lake basically just does that. It turns over, and the water, where the stratosphere, or where the stratus was in the water, is now oxygen above and not below, and before it was below and not above. So the
Right.
colder water moves up, they gets that. All it is the two waters columns coming together with the same temperature, and whoop, it turns back over. Physics tells us that cold is attracted to warmth, so cold wants to go up, not warmth doesn't go towards cold, so turns it over.
Right.
But I always wonder about what people see out there, because I fish a lot. I fish in both of them, and I've seen the turnover where one day it's not, next day it is, and it's like you can't buy a bite.
It's funny you say that. Bull Shoals the other day, there's a creek that's traditionally extremely good, been very good to me, and it had that algae type bubbly look to it. And man, it was like I went a week before the tournament for a day, and then I went back 2 days of practice, and I spent a little bit of every day I was there in that area because I was like, this is supposed to be the deal, and I think it was in the middle of a turnover up that arm of the lake.
Yep, that's probably a tough one there. So now you're going to be down in Florida. You got all that, you're going to have to figure that out. But overall, why don't you give me your top 5 fall baits now, and don't say Remington and all this. I don't want to hear rifles and shotguns and what's your top 5 baits that you throw in the fall when you have tournaments to do?
Man, it would be a plopper, a football jig, a square bill, spinnerbait, and I think a jigging spoon.
Nice. There's one I haven't heard yet.
I think the football jig and the jigging spoon are for the deeper fish, and then obviously the area for shallow. But man, they get so focused on bait. I fished over here at a local lake the other day, and I never got a bite on anything but a spoon. I mean, I could not get them to eat a jig or anything. They just get so focused.
Using a big spoon or a smaller spoon?
I like using like a half ounce, just a jigging hammered spoon.
Like a Hopkins spoon?
Yep.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's exactly. And I mean, I know a buddy of mine. He throws like a flutter spoon.
Yeah.
I've not ever played with them a ton. I know they catch fish. I've caught fish on, but I prefer that hammer just jigging spoon, because a lot of times you'll see those fish on your graph and it gets there so quick. Where you can drop down to them before, because they're like ADD. I mean, they're everywhere all the time. Like they're not just chilling. Like they're just like wide open when you see them on the graph.
Right.
And gets there quick, strike them off before they're gone to get them to bite.
Yeah. That is one of the really cool fun parts about jigging spoons is when you get them on there, it's like, and they usually, when they start biting those things, it is not subtle.
And it'll blow your mind because you watch them on the graph and you're like, hey, there's 2 fish. And you throw down there and like 25 more come off the bottom after it. It's like, do the whole school of fish.
Yeah. Now, when you're going to be out in the fall like this and you're throwing those baits, what are you pretty much, do you just pretty much search? I mean, you're just like searching. I know fall, you just talked about, it's a little tougher just because it's hard to figure out which ones went heavy, which ones it. Have you seen where, hey, you know what? I will normally catch my biggest fish up shallow, or I will normally catch my biggest fish out deep in the fall.
I think you're going to catch your biggest up shallow, but there's a high possibility you don't get 5 of those bites in a day.
Okay.
I think the bite is probably your more consistent bite, but the shallow bite by far, I think, is your biggest bite, at least around here. But like I said, you may go 8 or 9 hours for 3 bites or 4 bites.
Yeah.
Or you may have 8, 7 bites. And if you get them to connect, then you've had a really good day,
Yeah. I mean, I say, yeah, but I don't really have that issue sometimes. I mean, I'm on the West Coast and we just have a lot of fish. So it's one of those, I've always felt like, the shallow fish are always going to be your better bite most of the time, but during fall, I always like to hear what other guys have to say about it because I know a lot of guys that just like, nope, in the fall, I stay deep because I feel like the last ones to come up are the deep fish. But we're also talking about lakes that are, 200, 300, 400 feet deep. And we've got fish that are staging in 25 to 50, sometimes 80. So are there always fish up shallow? Sure, they're always fish up shallow. Are they always big? No. I can go out and catch 200 fish on a lake right now, and there wouldn't be one over 3 pounds. So
wow.
So
yeah, I feel like around here, like I said, in the fall we do fish the Ozark region more. A lot of championships and stuff go to this area, and I feel like the big bites there for sure. But it's just so those bites. It's like stand on the trolling motor all day and hope.
Yeah. So let's talk. One of the things I always see when they talk about the Ozarks, they talk about down that way, Arkansas. All these those cypress trees and the hips and all that. How do you pick that all apart? Because I can watch every show out there and every single one of them looks like the exact same tree. And every single one of them, they tell you every single time they talk, it's like, you got to find the right one. And it's like, how in the heck do you look at those trees? Do you look at that water and go, oh, there's the right one?
Man, it's you look for something different. And that's the same with grass or anything, but you look for kind of like a pattern inside the trees. Like you're either looking for a horizontal piece of wood around all the vertical, or maybe you figure out they're on the knees outside the trees, and you just have to fish the knees, or they're on double trees. Where kind of 2 trees make one stump. But there's usually something different. If you can pick that up, it helps. And sometimes it's just like going to a lake with a bunch of rocks and saying, man, you've got to cover 5 miles of bank with a crankbait to get. I mean, sometimes it's like that, but a lot of times it's something different. A lot of times it's horizontal.
Okay.
Like a limb off or a tree's laid over, stuff like that. That's where your bites are more prevalent.
So you'll just be going through and you're like, you know what, there's a vertical piece right there. So I'm going to start, or a horizontal piece. So I'm going to start fishing that. And all of a sudden you start picking up fish off that horizontal. So is it like they load up on that and then you got to kind of go through looking for the same things everywhere? And it's like, hey, they seem to be something horizontal is attracting them because it's different than when you look under the water, it's like knee, horizontal piece of wood. So they all just, hey, we're going to go to that one.
Yeah. And a lot of times on lakes like that, there's so much you're not seeing under the water that it's more of a cover water. Then when you get to something like that, you make sure you fish it good. But it's not as far apart as you think either. It may be every 30 feet or something. there's always a limb that's broke off, or a tree that's laid over, a tree on the bank that fell in.
Yeah.
It's just like, man, fishing grass. I mean,
Right.
if you've got a big grass, you're wanting to fish the points and the pockets and the holes. You're not real concerned about the straight lines.
Yeah.
To me, you're not.
Right.
You're high percentage.
Yeah.
And high percentage is just something different.
Bass U, folks. Information is pouring over. If you want to learn more about every lake, how to fish shallow, deep, in between, skipping docks and rocks and cranking, slow wiggling, chatter, smattering, you get it at Bass U. We got the best of the best. If somebody's ever caught a bass on something and perfected the technique, we got you covered. Get on Bass U TV, check it out, sign up, be a member, be part of it, folks. Keep learning. I'm Gerald Swindle. Subscribe to Bass U.
That's a great way. I hear people use that term. I use it, high percentage spots. And it's like, what's a high percentage spot? It's just something that's a little different than everything else. That might be the one that's going to hold hold a fish.
That's, man. And I'll even talk hunting for just a second here for your listeners that are hunters. Like if you're deer, there's a fence and a deer's wanting to cross that fence, they're going to cross where there's a gap. It's the same deal. I mean, it translates. That's your high percentage spot. They're going to go to something different, whatever's easiest for them. A horizontal piece of wood's probably easier for a bass to ambush shad when everything else is vertical. Just like a break in a barbed wire fence is the easiest place for a deer to cross, go from one field to the other.
Can you do that with duck hunting now?
You can, the little points, little points of where you're hunting.
That's the good part about the show is I can ask whatever question I want. And then grass works perfect because you're going into Kissing Me Now, and there's a little bit of grass there. That lake has. I know you're not supposed to get any other information, but that lake has grass in it, man. When you get down there, look for it.
I should get there. Okay.
It's like going up to one of the lakes up north in New York, and one of the Great Lakes, and going, okay, look for rocks.
Yeah. That's like, first time I went north, they're like, well, look for boulders. I'm like, everything's a boulder. Why am I looking for boulders?
Then you get there and you go, oh, I get it.
Exactly.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to go up there next year and do that and get my first experience up there. So I'll be looking for boulders when I go up. Well, I don't know what I'm really looking for. I'll just be fishing out the back of the boat. Wherever the guy stops, I'm going to fish. But yeah, so we talk, we have some of the things going on. You got your professional fishing league. Let's, for a lot of people out there that don't know you have some limitations, and I kind of wanted to know if that's, is that part of what keeps you from trying to, make more runs or not? But for people who don't know who you are that well, why don't you tell us a little bit about, I don't even want to get into what they are, because I want you to tell us a little bit of, no, it's just because I want you to kind of tell us what it's like to fish the way you fish, as good as you fish, at the level you fish, with the limitations you have. And I know people say it's whatever, but it's, to me, they're just limitations, and they're in your mind, and you have seemed to really overcome those so well. And I'd love to hear what it's, from your point of view, it's like, what is it that let everybody know kind of who you are, what you are. They can look you up and, that sort of thing, but what you deal with every day in these tournaments.
So at 9 months old, I got a form of bacterial meningitis, 100-degree fever. Shouldn't have lived. If I lived, I'd be a vegetable. Good Lord took care of me. I did survive, but I lost both legs below the knees, right below the knees. I lost all my fingers on my left hand, and I lost partial fingers on my right hand. So life's been a little bit different, but I was so young. Like I learned how to do things differently than everybody else, but it was normal to me. Like I thought your way was weird. My way was normal.
My way is weird.
But I mean, that's just all I've ever known, which really helped. My parents they did not allow me to have a pity party. I mean, they pretty much said you're going to figure out how to do whatever you need to do, and just period, figure it out. We're not going to feel sorry for ourselves.
Right.
And so that's how I grew up, and it made me very mentally tough. I think mentally tough goes a very long ways in the fishing world. And it's just, man, it's just what I've known. I've been kind of blown away by some of the things that were said, different articles that were posted about one of the most historic things in bass fishing when I won this tournament. To me, it was just another tournament. I mean, that's what I do. I fish. And I told my buddy that the other day. I said, everybody's going crazy over this, man. I'm like, gosh, what took so long? And he's like, step back and think, man. It's a really cool deal, and it is. Like when I stop and think about it, like God has just blessed me with the ability to fish. He's blessed me with the mindset to go, put up with what I'm missing and go fish, man. And it's all I've ever known. So it's just kind of what I've dealt with. But man, I get around. I get a lot of questions about how I get around. I walk on my knees in the boat. I don't put my wheelchair in the boat. I drive with hand controls in my truck. I drive a Dodge Ram 2500 diesel. So I mean, fairly normal. I've got the hand controls to help me drive. But other than that, I mean, there's nothing on my boat other than my trolling motor pedal is not recessed. I keep it up on the deck, so it's easier to drive with my leg. Man, I just go when I figure it out. When I need to do something, I just figure out how.
Hey, that works for me. I mean, there's there's guys out there, and I love it when I get to a tournament and some guy says, God, it's so cold, I can't hardly feel my fingers. Takes on a whole new meaning now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What I mean?
It's so cold I can't feel my feet. And I'm like, dude, I can't feel my feet either. So it'll be all right.
See, and to me, that's how it should be, right? It's I still think it's, this isn't really what you wanted to, when you first, when you were younger, bass fishing and fishing really wasn't your first love, was it?
No, I mean, I fished. Like, I'm an outdoor family.
Right.
I've grown up. But as far as tournaments, it wasn't. I'm so competitive, and I played soccer and basketball with artificial legs in junior high and middle school. And but I kind of, I started looking at the tournament fishing. It's like, man, this is cool. I can be competitive.
Mm-hmm.
I can scratch that competitive itch, and I feel like I'm decent at it.
Yeah.
And I mean, dude, it takes a lot of hard work. Anybody's tournament fishing with that. It's not like I was just great in catching fish. I got my teeth kicked in for so long, but I decided I was going to put in the effort to try to make it better. And like after I graduated high school, I started doing fairly well locally and then regionally a little bit. I'm 36 now, so I mean I've been doing this tournament thing for 20 years. So it's grown. I've grown a sponsored portfolio through it. A bunch of partners that have supported me before this win. Obviously, that when not a lot of people knew who Hunter Baughman was, but I'm so thankful for them, and I'm thankful that I have been able to grow this at this point. I'm hoping to make this a career and feed my family doing this for a long time.
It's fishing, just bring some home. So today's, youth coming up, I always love to ask this question. And, you came through from, you, like you're saying, 16, 17, 18 years old, you decided this is something you wanted to do. What do you kind of tell these kids coming up now that have so many more opportunities than guys like me and you did? There are huge, huge opportunities out there now. But as you've worked through it and you've been through, you've got the sponsors now that are helping you out. I just heard you plug one tonight for Ram. You really wanted a Ram sponsors. I heard you throw that out there. Trying to help you out. But what do you tell these kids coming up? What is the key to really being on the water? Making this into a career. I mean, you're going through it right now where you're still trying to make it a career, but what do they need to do to say, hey, you know what? This is what I've seen. This is what I do. You want to make it easier for yourself? Do this.
First will be time on the water. It's like, it doesn't matter how many YouTube videos you watch or how many, books you read. It's time on the water decisions. It's amazing to me every year how much I learn. It's like, man, I know I did well in this tournament because last time I was in this situation, I knew I did wrong. That's like this year. I've ended up fishing the NPFL, the series of Toyotas, and then the ABA Solo 150. So I ended up fishing 12 out of state multi-day tournaments, and I did that to learn because a lot of them were on lakes I'd never been to. I did that to learn how to practice, to learn how to break down multiple day lakes. Because before this year, I had 6 NPFLs under my belt, and that was the majority of my multiple day tournaments. So I wanted to learn how to break down lakes quickly in 3 days of practice, and how to fish multiple day tournaments, make those fish last. And you have to. I mean, there is absolutely nothing you can read or watch that teaches you how to do that, like time on the water.
Mhm.
So I'd say just right off the bat, time on the water. Then, man, this is like, know that you're going to lose. Like Kevin Van Dam is the Michael Jordan of this sport, and that dude loses what 90% of the time he puts his boat in the water.
Sure.
I mean, and he's light years ahead of everybody else as far as records.
Yeah.
So you have to be able to lose. You have to be able to lose with dignity and grace if you ever want to keep any sponsorships. And then, man, you really, really need a backup plan. Like my title sponsor also helped work, and I'm their national sales manager as well. But you've got to, like, there is nobody, man. I'm telling you, if there's anybody, it's a very handful of people, but that can just catch fish to pay their bills. Like, there's so much on the business side of it, so much in the sponsorship side. You've got to be able to show a sponsor you can make them more money than they pay you, just like you would with any other job. And without that business side, and for a lot of kids coming out of high school, that's going to college, getting a business degree. That's a lot of different things. But without having that business side, man, I believe that no one can make it on catching fish alone. I think there's guys that can for several years, but longevity, I think they will have a year or two that's tough, like all fishermen do. And then at that point, if they're just catching fish to pay their bills, they have to quit catching fish to go get a job.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
You know,
firm believer.
Everything you've just said, I really wholeheartedly believe in. You're spot on. I've talked to some of the top pros in this nation, and they've all told me the same thing. It's like, this is such an expensive sport. You're talking, guys are paying $65, $70, $80,000 in entry fees and little expensive, and they have to make that back in tournament winnings before they even keep the lights on at home. So
Yeah,
how do you do that and not have, good sponsors behind you? And good sponsors want exactly what you're just talking about, right? I mean, they want someone that can sell their product, push their product, move their product, and market behind it.
but absolutely, and that's what it's all about. But it can be different. Like, it's not just, hey, dude, buy this fishing pole. It's not like that. Everybody wants something different. It may be
Right.
You may be going to like shows and selling stuff, or working boots, or whatever, filming TV commercials, or
Right.
whatever. Yeah, they all want something different. But in the end, you have to be able to make them profit.
It's funny you brought up Kevin Van Dam and all that, and I think he's still, even with some of the other guys that are out there now, I think he's still pretty much the pinnacle of this sport. And one of my good friends in this industry was telling me that she was working with him doing a commercial shoot, and he comes out, 1 or 2 takes, has this amazing commercial. They're like, oh, we're so happy with it, and he just says, no, stop. I can do it better. Let me do this better. We're going to do 3 or 4 more shoots. And he ends up doing like 15 more shoots, gets it just to where he's like, that's what we need. And she's sitting there going, most guys will walk in, or most people would walk in, blurt out what they got to blurt out and walk away and go, oh, okay, you got it. Yeah, you're good. Okay. This guy is that's the difference in why I don't think he ever has to pick up another rod in his life to fish. He does it now out of pure joy for the sport.
Yes.
It's I hear a lot of professional athletes talk about, I'd do this even if I wasn't getting paid. Bull. You know, you do
Right.
this because you do those professional sports. You do baseball, football, basketball, hockey, you name the major sports. You do that because you love the sport, yes, but you want to get paid. Everybody. That's why you do. That's why you make it a professional sport. That's why you're not an amateur anymore, right? Because you want this as a professional.
We have a process that we call simple price, simple process. And what that means is we take our lowest and best price and we post it on every single car. There's no back and forth. And by simple process, what that means is when you meet somebody, they can handle every aspect of what you do in your car transaction buying experience from beginning to end.
It's work ethic, man. That's all. Actually, I went and spoke to a high school yesterday, and I go speak to different schools and clubs and stuff. And I tell them 110%. Like, if you're on the football team and you're only showing up to 3/4 of the practices, you're going to be on the bench watching them play when Friday night hits.
Right.
Like, it's the guys who are putting in every ounce they can in practice, and then when everybody goes home, they're still practicing at their house.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that are starting the games. And that's the guys that are cashing the checks and getting the sponsors, and making a career out of it.
Rick Clunn used to be, and I take nothing away from the man. He's definitely one of the tops in this business. But that guy used to sleep on the lake in a tent because he wanted to know and feel what kind of temperature changes happened during the night so that he knew exactly what to go do when the morning came. Oh, you know what? At about 11 o'clock, there's a cold front that came through. It's been holding out. It's still holding steady. Then it kind of broke off. And so when I went out there, this is what I did. I slowed it down a little bit. Then I picked back up. And as the day went on a little bit more, then I was really onto it. And I listened to that guy talk, and I've listened to him speak, and it's amazing. You talk about somebody that gives 110%. Well, if you could give 350%, that guy was the one who was doing it. That's why he was who he was, and I feel the same way about a lot of these, some of the guys coming out. I think a lot of it's returned now to this electronics thing. And I think for me personally, I think it's been a little detriment to the sport. It's highlighted people that are willing to sit in front of a computer longer and actually, study the screens more than being in touch with the fish and how they actually fish and what they're saying and how they're doing things. So I see it as a kind of a catch-22. It's like, yeah, the electronics are telling you one thing, but if you're not paying attention to what the fish are telling you, you're still not doing very well. And even the guys that are pulling that off are still losing 90% of the time because that's our sport. So...
Yes, exactly. And the electronics, it's, I think the guys who realize it's a tool and it's not the only thing they do, but it's something they have in their arsenal,
right,
are the ones that are very dangerous with them,
Yep.
And it's like I've told people around here, you could take BFL standings from this year and from 5 years ago, and the same dudes are in the top 10 most of the time. Say 5 out of the top 15 are the same dudes, but 5 years ago they were doing it without live scope. Now they're doing it with, they're the guys who just catch fish,
right,
and they know how to use that tool when it's needed.
Right. No, definitely. And that's just, I think that'll always be the way it is. You ever get a chance, go back to watch YouTube, watch the very first Bassmaster Classic and stuff. That's so awesome to see what they used and how it was, and to see where it's come now is just, it's absolutely impressive. It's hilarious to watch, and it's fun to see. And you just think, what if we knocked everything back down to that? You could only go to the Bassmasters Classic and you can have 10 pounds of weight. You can have 5 rods and 10 pounds of tackle. And you can use flashers.
Right? I think somebody that's still in the sport that's incredible at being able to adapt, that's Larry Nixon, man.
Sure.
He's fun too, but Larry's been in it forever, and he was the dude that figured out how to do it with flashers. Now he's doing it with live scope, but he's, like, you see those guys like Larry and Rick Clunn, and they've done it forever. Like they're just fish catchers, man.
Yep.
Like, they figure it out. Doesn't matter what they have, they'll figure it out.
Yeah. There's just, it's impressive to watch the old school guys that are still out there, still doing it, still running, in the money. You're just like, wow,
oh yeah,
they're still cashing checks.
Yes.
So we're going to wrap it up here in just in about 7 or 8 minutes here that we'll run out of time. You have anything out there, any sponsors that you want to recognize and tell people, and then maybe tell them a little bit about how to find you and follow you, and any other information you want to give out?
Yeah, man, definitely. I want to recognize my title. That without them this year, I wouldn't have been anything like I did. That's Redemption Ranch. It's a really cool deal. Their ranch that is dedicated to creating jobs for disabled individuals. So what we do is the individuals cut and bag firewood killing, then I sell it. But it's a sister ranch. Any money we make, they roll back into a sister ranch called Run WJ, which is therapeutic horseback riding for disabled kids. So it's a really neat, like the whole system's a really neat deal for them. Kind of stick their neck out a little bit and help me fish this year and try to get them a little more exposure. It's been a cool deal, and I definitely need to thank them. As far as finding me, man, I've got Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, some goofy videos you can laugh at TikTok. I do have videos on all those formats. You go back and look. I did about a year of what I call it, How To Tuesday, where once a week I'd put out a video of how I did something, because everybody's always asking. Like, I shoot a compound bow, I climb ladders into deer stands, I'm in and out of the boat, changing tires, and some of them are funny. I'm washing the boat, but it's actually my wife washing the boat. I mean, it's just, we do a lot of different stuff, but all those platforms, you can hashtag Hunter Fishes and it'll pull it up. The actual handle is Hunter Baughman Fishing, but nobody ever knows how to spell my last name. So you can just hashtag Hunter Fishes and you'll find it. Or actually, hunterfishes.com is my website, and you can go from there to all the socials.
Yeah, his name is, it's not phonetically correct. I blame his parents mostly, but it's Baughmans. Apostrophe S if you want to make it possessive. So you can...
no S, just the ends
with
no
the
S.
N. Okay. But yeah, it's and I'm gonna tell you, if you don't have TikTok, just get it to watch his videos because they're pretty funny. Especially him climbing into a deer stand. It's lucky you live where you live, and you work with deer stands, because I'm telling you what, out here in West Coast, we got to spot and stalk a lot. So I'd still hunt with you though, because I would definitely want to be the video guy of you going 8 miles, 10 miles after you see seeing some bucks out there on the hill or something. It's like, all right, they're over there, go get them.
Hey, I never claimed not to be a little bit lazy. I don't know if I'd be a spot stalk guy.
Yeah, it's definitely different out here. Yeah. So you got anybody else that you want to prop up a little bit and say, hey, thanks for keeping me in my boat?
Yeah, for sure, man. Laser Boats, Horizon, Triton Marine, my dealership here, Mercury Motors, Denali Rods, man, they've taken care of me for definitely one of the biggest parts of that win the other day. And then the Brazalo custom lures that makes the jigs I was throwing. Like on Brazalo custom lures, Brazalo, customlures.com. You can type in Hunter Fishes. You can get a discount, get on there and get some of the winning jigs.
Nice.
Man, there's so many, but it's just without all of them, man, I've got to say without God, without him, I wouldn't be where I'm at. I shouldn't even be here. So just thankful to be here, and my wife for taking care of me like she does and cooking my dinner when we're out of town on the road.
Well, that's awesome. So, all right, man. Well, we're kind of at our time here. So, Hunter, thank you for coming on and doing this, man. I really appreciate it. Stephanie Hemphill sent me over here and said, you got to interview this guy. He did a great job recently. And she's a person that I hold a lot of respect for. So I'm glad you were able to come on our show and do a little talking for Bass Angler Magazine. So if y'all haven't, checked out our magazine yet, please go out there at bassmag.com and give us a look. And, I just really appreciate you coming on, man. So
thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, we hope to get you back on next month for a win at Kissimmee.
I'm in.
Yeah. Like I said, the best thing I can give you is fish the grass. Oh, and don't go swimming. There's damn alligators in there. And you're
yeah. I can't be letting them bite any limbs off.
No, and I mean, on top of that, I don't be a swimmer. You know? So, all right, Hunter. Well, you have a good night, and thanks for doing this. And everybody, thanks for tuning in. And come back in a couple weeks, and we will have another one on here for you, and we'll have another great angler. So, thanks for tuning in. Y'all have a good night. Thank you.